Tropical Storm Fernand to form out here in the tropical Atlantic. Doesn't really look that impressive, does it? That doesn't to me either. It's kind of sandwiched in between two different air masses here. And we have 99L out here in the just to the east of the Windward Islands. And we have, that's about it, really. We have a non-tropical low starting to form off the east coast of the U.S. We don't think that's going to develop into anything. Excuse me. Been a struggle to get going this morning, y'all, so bear with me here. First, I'm going to start with Ferdinand here and go over the well, first let's go over the stuff we always do first is National Hurricane Center latest advisory. Sustained winds 40 miles per hour, central pressure not very impressive, 1010 millibars. Moving north-northeast at 15 miles an hour. Not likely to impact Bermuda in any sensible way. Maybe some higher winds, probably higher breezes there, and maybe some waves increasing. We have 90. This is Fernand. We have 99L. Now back up to 40% chance of development next couple of days. And if they send a Hurricane Hunter aircraft out there today, we'll get a better idea of its structure. But it's been hanging on for dear life through this whole process here. And if it does make it up into the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, we'll have to see what happens after that. So, what does the Google AI and Euro models do with all this stuff? Got that low off the coast here, Ferdinand, into the northeast. 99L makes it to the, wants to maybe develop a low tropical depression and then loses it. And we have a long activity in the deep tropics here with some increased activity along the in Mexico. Likely the Central American gyres may be getting going again as we get towards the beginning of September. See a bunch of storms in the East Pacific and activity in the tropics backing off here in the tropical Atlantic. As far as the low level analysis here. This is initialized roughly about now. We have this is the EC AI model. We just kind of looked at that as part of that Google DeepMind. Excuse me. It wants to put, it's Ferdinand here, tropical storm, 99L. It really doesn't do much with Ferdinand. And 99L doesn't really want to develop it. Move through time here. So we're out to September 4th now, which is 10 days out. Not wanting to do much in the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico, at least according to this model. What is the Super-Ensemble show for vorticity associated with there's what's left of Aaron, Ferdinand, 99L. Is the 500 millibar flow around in the subtropical high here. So we have flow from the south here. We got Ferdinand, 99L moving westward. This is the 850 millibar vorticity. Gives a good idea where the circulation is. And this is a super-ensemble, like 3 different ensemble models blended together. See what happens to 99L, kind of not sure. Let's follow it. At least at 850 millibars, it stays pretty. Nothing really to show. You can see what happens along the East Coast here. We have a deep trough along the East Coast, which if something does get going in the tropical Atlantic, deep tropics, it'd be pushed out to sea anyway. But I'd watch out for the Gulf of Mexico because of maybe a stalled funnel boundary in this area. See the increased vorticity here at 850 millibars and subtropical high really pushing in here. Deep flow here like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. Anyway, that's the 850 millibar. This is a GFS output showing, what it thinks the infrared satellite's going to look like. Let's go back to that one initialized. It's a pretty good representation of Fernand here. Very small circulation, 99L. Maybe he wants to get a little bit stronger, then it gets sheared apart and dissipates. You can see in the Caribbean some semblance of a circulation there from 99L, but there's definitely some disturbed weather there. We'll just have to see what happens with that. Look at another view here from Fernand and 99L's on here. This is one of the hurricane models, infrared satellite loop. I know I'm kind of geeking out here. Y'all don't have to watch this if you don't want. Not many people care about stuff that's in the ocean other than the fish. I guess our main concern really in the long term would be what happens on 99L. But right now, doesn't seem much of a concern. We have that system off the East Coast here. It kind of shows it as well, which gives us a good view of what it looks like here. Ferdinand, not very impressive. Doesn't do much with it. When we switch over to 99L, let's see what it does with it. I mean, it interestingly enough, it wants to hold it together. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. Looking at another hurricane model. See, this hurricane model looks a lot different with this system off the East Coast here. Almost looks tropical in nature, doesn't it? We'll just have to see what the National Hurricane Center says about it. But one thing I looked at with that was the phase space diagrams. This shows a model output of what it thinks the structure of the cyclone will be as it moves up the coast here. Just want to give a brief look at this. Symmetric cold core, that's the current position, moving into asymmetric cold core. So deep cold core as it moves into North Atlantic. So not likely to become, at least according to this, a tropical cyclone. But we all know off the coast here, on the Gulf Stream, anything can happen. So we'll just keep an eye on it the next 12, 24 hours. Like I said, there's a HAFS-A model showing Ferdinand 990 and that disturbance off the coast there. Wants to hold 9990 Ferdinand together a little bit more, but then doesn't do much with it. As far as 99L goes, there it is there. Going back in time a little bit. See what it does with it. I like to look at this because it really gives you a good visualization what the models are doing with it. A lot of disturbed weather moving through the Caribbean. It really doesn't hold on to it very well there. HAFS-B is a different look at the. Let's switch to the simulated IR satellite. See what it says here. Doesn't do much with it either. Off the East Coast. That's the same kind of look off the North Carolina coast there. Ferdinand, move out to sea. I don't think Ferdinand's going to be a risk to anybody. 99L. Zoomed out look here. See how it jumps around a bunch? It doesn't, it's not tracking the disturbance at all. See, it goes to South America. So, jury's still out on that. This is just a representation of one of the hurricane model representation of Ferdinand structure. Today, starting today at 06C. Doesn't, that's a good representation right there, 1010. Want to strengthen it some, but really never really gets going here. Maybe strengthen a little bit, but that's it. What do the model outputs show for Ferdinand? Tropical storm out into the tropical Atlantic. Here's 99L. And we look at 99L's path. We talked about that kind of where we think it might go. That's just the GFS ensembles. Forecast track, minimum pressure. Not doing much here. Very weak, at least according to this, which is what we're expecting. You see these lines that go into South America here. That's that HMON and HAFS-A and B kind of losing the system as it moves into the Caribbean. These are just different models showing where it might go. Forecast intensity of ships is still out to lunch on this one, way out in the once the system reaches the far Western Caribbean, but it's been pretty consistent with this, so I'm not sure what it's basing this on and what's become a hurricane in the Western Caribbean. I'll show you that in a second. See, here's the ship's intensity guidance, which none of the other models are showing. I have to do some more research on that and why. The only thing I can think is that we have decrease in wind shear, increase in SSTs, increase in relative humidity. See, the relative humidity is marginal through the Caribbean, and heat content increases. So if this is just a statistical model that's not based on anything else, or it's a deterministic, maybe that's why I apologize. I just don't know all the details of what the ship's model uses, but I'm certainly going to find out. As far as Ferdinand goes, this is where it is as of 09 UTC today. This is like, what is it right now? An hour ago. East Coast time. Forecast to become 45, 60 mile an hour tropical storm. I'll be surprised if it gets that strong, to be honest with you. We'll see. tracks, CMC, which is the Canadian, wants to bring it closer to the coast here. I think that's Newfoundland right there. Forecast. We showed the intensity here. Most of the models want to bring it up to relatively mid-grade tropical storm in the short term, and then become tropical shortly after that. This is the GFS Ensemble tracks. Same thing here, pretty cut and dry. Same thing, model forecast tracks for the GFS ensembles. We'll just strengthen it when it reaches Europe, but that's not a concern for the tropics, really. And not really forecast to intensify. There's the ship's model output. Wind shear is going to increase markedly as we get out in time. SSTs drop off consistently here. Although the relative humidity is going to increase in the next couple of days. Heat content, of course, is decreasing. So this thing has a few days to get going, to do something, and after that, it's going to be. The National Hurricane Center thinks too that it's not going to take long before it dissipates. So that's it for the tropics for today. We'll keep an eye on the Caribbean. I think, given how that disturbance has managed to hold on this long, if it does make it through the Caribbean somehow, to the Western Caribbean, we may see something crop up. But right now, there's nothing really to talk about. Next, I'm going to go over, take a deeper dive into the nice cool down that's coming across the most of the country as the heat in the western part of the United States. Here we go. A little trouble getting going here today. We have deep moisture still on the southeast coast here, with a low developing offshore, and moisture associated with this high pressure and going around it, over it, from the surging upward here from the tropics. Likely enhanced by topography here as they come over the Rockies here. Higher elevations. Looks like a short wave, some short waves moving through the flow here, eventually ushering in. I can't draw on this, of course not. Cooler air to the good portion of the country here. And this model output from the European model shows the North American continent all the way up into the pole, the Arctic almost here. These are low pressure areas, as you can see, with enhanced flow around them. Starting off, you see this low pressure here, here. This is 500 millibars. And the mid part of the atmosphere. This illustrates well the flow coming down from very high latitudes here. So that's what's driving the colder air influx into our area, into the eastern part of the U.S. That's a high pressure is built into, see the Aleutian low is offshore here, high pressure out here at the mid levels. That trough stays embedded over the east for quite a while here, even out to the end of the month. There's still some troughiness here, with a large high pressure still maintaining itself over a good portion of the western U.S. Trough this out, Flow becomes more zonal, and then a low once they come in along the west coast, maybe. Trough over the eastern Atlantic, western Atlantic Ocean, and that's out 360 hours, which is till the 8th. But in the short term, what we're looking at here, you can see why this flow is bringing in cooler weather for a good portion of the eastern U.S. Kind of good to show this. This is more of a global look at it. So, talking about that, what are the current hazards? We did have some flood watches along the southeast coast, but they're not there anymore. The biggest threat along the west coast here is heat, red flag warnings, so a few flood watches, extreme heat warnings, heat advisories, and this heat will subside over the coming days. But for a couple more days, it's going to be like this. As far as severe weather goes, this is a 4-panel look at it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because there's not really a lot going on. We have some marginal risks. Our 8-panel look. Marginal risk along the with that northwest flow kind of off the Rockies, off the high terrain here. Marginal risk in the northeast quarter. And after that, general thunderstorms. So not a lot going on with severe weather in the coming days, which is unusual this time of year. Now this is the big deal, right? So this is day 6 to 10, temperature probability outlook. Anywhere you see the darker blues, they have a good confidence that it's going to be cooler than normal in these areas. Of course, up here it's going to be warmer along the Florida coast. Sorry, guys. Even into northern Florida, maybe even central Florida, it's going to be cooler than normal. Precipitation, wherever frontal boundary ends up settling in here, likely be wetter than normal. And of course, along the northwest, when systems start coming in there, maybe enhanced moisture on the east coast of Florida and the Texas. Day 8 to 14 temps still forecast to be through the 6th of September. Good chance of being cooler than normal along this area here in the blue, the north, and the surrounding it. Florida, sorry guys, surrounding it, equal chances. Precip looking to be above normal chances of above, well, 33% chance of having above normal precip. As you get in the darker greens, the precip chances get higher in the long term. So this is what the National Weather Service blend of all the models thinks the temperature is going to be in the coming days. And what you'll notice, these is max and mins as we go through time here. See the lighter colors coming in 40s, 50s for lows. As we get into Monday, the highs are definitely pushed further south, even in the west here, right? Lows in the 60s, highs in the 80s, even in the deep south, even in northern Florida. One of the things is this is the heat risk, right? I want to show this real quick. This shows where the most heat is supposed to be in the next couple of days. You can see as that moves on the time, really minimal heat risk across most of the U.S. and a good portion of the U.S. has none. So that's unusual this time of year for sure. Going back to temps, 50s in the mountains. Maybe get into the 60s, close to 50s here in Tennessee, Alabama. Good portion of the U.S. is going to be nice. These temperatures. This is heat index, so you know it's really giving a good approximation of what it's going to feel like, and that's unreal this time of year in the 80s in the deep south here. Even we get out to the end of this 80s, crazy. As far as the cloud cover goes, this will give us a good idea if the cloud cover modulates the temperatures or is just other things like just a dry air mass. See where the most cloud cover is, shifts out of the southeast. Moves in the northwest flow here with precipitation as it moves through. And you see what I'm talking about here over time. Just the model's output, what the cloud cover would be. Um, precipitation as well. This just gives a good idea where the models think the most precip's going to be in the coming days. With the deeper oranges and stuff, the deeper oranges, the most precip. Of course, where it's white is greater than tenth of an inch every 6 hours. Southeast is going to be dry for a good portion of the week. Splotches of rain moving through, and eventually starting to get moistened up along the Gulf Coast. Florida looks like it's going to stay pretty wet. Dew points are a good reflection of the actual how it feels to people. Of course, at night, the dew points, when the temperature reaches your dew point, then it's going to feel warmer. But if it's the temperature and dew point are 50 degrees, then it's definitely going to be nice out. So it's going to feel good. So you see the dew points, 40s, 50s. Still, this is today, moving through time here. See how the dew points are pushed. The higher dew points are first for the south. Tomorrow's like the last day that it remains in the south. It's close to 60. These are nice dew points for this time of year. Although the moisture remains in Texas in the deep south here, but you can see what I'm talking about. A little bit of moisture return up here, but 55 dew point, 50s, 40s. It is going to be. I'm looking forward to this. I know you are too. So you see what I'm talking about towards the end of the period, though. Moisture starts to build back into the deep south. Although this is probably more modulated, the temperatures will be modulated by cloud cover during this time. This is actual real field temps, and I was going over the wind chill, the heat index before. This is actually not real feel. These are actual air temps. So we go through time, it starts cooling off. You can see what happens here if we go through night and daytime, 40s, 50s, 60s. Starting to warm up a little bit in the deep south, but I'll take these temps in the desert southwest. Of course, it's going to be hot. So this gives a good idea of the precipitation. This is a weekly estimate of precipitation anomalies above normal, below normal, standard deviation. So mostly dry over a good portion. This is the 1st of September. bullseye in the central part of the U.S. Not a lot going on after that. So I don't know how accurate this is in the long range, but it looks like it's going to remain pretty dry, to be honest with you. Now this will tell us here the standard anomaly previous 7 days from the first here. So these darker blues and like magenta and things are standard deviation below normal temperature. And this, you can see up here, the dark colors, even the greens and towards the whites is almost 2 standard deviations above normal, which is incredibly warm. You can see where the cool air settles in here on the U.S., even in the most of the U.S. east of the Rockies. Still somewhat below normal, not extreme one way or the other, into the second week of September. Warming up along the east in the third week. 4 weeks out. Overall forecast to be warm for most of the U.S. and same thing at the end of the month. All right, so this is the frontal boundaries draped, overlaid with the flooding risk, excessive rainfall today. Cold front pushing to the south here. Another boundary along the Gulf Coast where enhanced moisture is, and you have the surface trough, it looks like, interacting with this front coming through that could possibly lead some severe weather and flooding, and along the front range of the Rockies and the Kansas, Oklahoma, and different areas of the desert southwest here, monsoon trough. Interesting in California mountains as well. What happens with day 2? Day 2, excessive rainfall in fronts. Looks like this boundary is really keeping the excessive rainfall going here. This cold front's about to push through the south and then the north here. Low pressure offshore here. And day 3, excessive rainfall, still out west. And then we move forward, and excessive rainfall for day 4 remains out west. So there's going to be really pretty good potential for flooding, and we kind of showed that in the long range precipitation outlook too. And we look at day 3 to 7, heavy rain along the stalled boundary here. And for day 8 to 14, there's nothing there right now from the WPC. So, cool down's on the way. Looking forward to it. Sorry, Florida, but and one of the biggest hazards I think we're thinking about right now is flooding out here in the Midwest over the next week. Have a great day.